discipleship is a two-way street where you're pouring into them, but then you're receiving from them as well, where it's not just like, hey, I'm this dictator or I'm this teacher gonna show you how to do things. Like, talk about that. What is your heart posture in discipleship?
I think the heart of any effective person is one who's meek. So Jesus only self-described himself once, and he said, I am meek and lowly in heart, right? And so a meek man is someone who's humble. And so the thing is that, and meekness has favor from the Lord on a person who's meek, but also from man. And so other men, we open our hearts when we see a man on a stage or we see a man in a conversation who is meek and humble. We know when someone's sincere. We know when they're genuine, and our hearts open up to receive from them. And so if I'm coming into a moment in time and I'm not meek, the person's not going to receive a lot from me, right? And so it's not on them; it's actually on me. If I'm prideful, I'm going to come here and show you. No. Like, I'm going to come. I realize I am the senior person in this friendship in a way, as in I hopefully I'm probably older, walk with the Lord more, things like that. But at all times, my heart is meek, and I've received words of correction from 15-year-old guys who were kind of barely Christians, but they were genuine words and my heart was focused to receive like words of correction and always being open to that. And so it's very important that my heart is meek, because then it opens the person up to receiving from the Lord. And that's my goal, is that they would actually touch Jesus in moments in time. Right.
Wow.
And so it's very critical to be humble, to be meek. Doesn't mean that you're just kind of struggling how they are. It doesn't mean that you have to share every single one of your problems if you have any with them. But it does mean that you're always humble and you're always meek.
Oh, that's so good. So Matt, talk about how the Lord called you into discipleship. What was the first early years of discipleship look like for you?
So I would say, a lot of this ball got rolling around 10 years ago. When I got involved with the Bible school in Jacksonville. And I just began to develop a heart for these students. And there was no formal way to begin to minister them. I wasn't given a stage or anything. And so they had a prayer time on Thursdays, and there were 80 students there. And I just began to go into that prayer room, and it's a 2-hour prayer time, 2 or 3 hour prayer time, so long prayer time. And I would just go in and say, I would pray for them, just be praying for them. And then all of a sudden the Lord would stop me and say, Matt, I want you to pray for this guy. And so I'd say, okay. And then I'd say, Jesus, how do you want me to pray for that guy? And he would bubble something up in me, and I would just go and say, hey man, like, can I pray for you? I felt like the Lord wanted me to pray this over you. And it would begin to impact him. And I would just walk that out for a year, then 2 years. And I realized that a lot of the words I was getting was about the Father heart of God, people not knowing who they were in Christ, people not knowing the goodness of the Father, and inability to come into intimacy and experiencing him. And so from that, I began to just develop a kind of a skill set of beginning to hopefully impart those things into people, teaching on it and touching them in different ways. And then from that, as you begin to touch these guys in deep ways, you begin to realize, wow, they're viewing you as an older brother. You're only 4 or 5 years older than them maybe, but they're viewing you as this older brother. And so it's a process by which the Lord shapes men, right? And so I'm by no means at the end of that process, but that's how I got started with it. And then there was a hunger too to see guys that experienced a lot when they were in the Bible school. They would go back and kind of fall off the map in some ways. And so the goal was, hey, like Paul talks about, I want to pray that the fruit and the seeds would last. And so I began to realize one of the main ways it's going to happen is as I invest my life into them. And so that's been how this process has developed.